Good evening and welcome to Football Fever with me, Aaron, and we've got Mark and Ralph on. So, a bit of a Man United team to the show tonight. All right.
Evening.
Let's kick straight in there, gents. So, first topic I've got down is about Solskjaer versus Arteta. I just thought I'd kind of explore this because it was just something I read on a tweet yesterday, and it was comparing their head-to-head record since Arteta took over at Arsenal, and then the kind of the reputation that both have. That Solskjaer loses a game or two, and suddenly all the talks about him losing his job. But from an outsider looking in, he seems to be doing a pretty good job, and yet Arteta's seen as the sorcerer's apprentice, call him what you want, but has got a worse record than Emery. So. I guess the question to both of you is why does Solskjaer get it so tough, and why is Arteta getting it so easy at the moment? Do you want to kick us off, Mark?
I mean, the only thing I can really think is it's down to expectation. So like Arteta, he's come in, as you say, the sorcerer's apprentice. I think everyone was expecting Pep the second. So there was already that expectation. Yeah, and he's just hasn't hit it at all. Whereas Solskjaer, I think he came in instantly over-exceeded with that first run we went on. Then he went through a tough patch where he just about held on purely because he was a United club man, shall we say, I think he would have been gone had he been anybody else. And now, luckily, a fairly decent run. We've had an odd poor performance here or there along the way, but I think everybody has this season. So that's the only thing I can really think is that it's down to expectation level now. That Ole is suddenly being given a much more of a chance, and Arteta is looking very rocky.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Arsenal playing at the moment, aren't they? I mean, how are they doing? I know it was 0-0.
1-0 out, I think.
Oh, are they? I mean, you'd expect them to beat Sheffield United. Look done, don't they?
Yeah, they should absolutely smash them. But the thing is that they haven't got a bad squad. They've got a decent few players there. They should be much, much higher than 11th. That's for sure. How they're still in 11th is beyond me. They just don't seem to be able to turn it around properly.
I think the Ozil saga sort of tarnished their season a little bit because it threw it all up in uproar, didn't it? They weren't sure whether he was going to play, and they sent a couple of players out on loan that they needed really to play at the back. It's sort of mixed emotions, really, isn't it? I know it's down to the players, but also it must affect the mentality of the team. If you're watching a player sit on a bench or sit home for 400 grand a week, and you're out there expected to run your bollocks off, do you know what I mean?
Is it fair to say that Emery kind of got the most out of Aubameyang, and Arteta has failed to do that? Because you're talking about the two biggest players in the club in the last few years are probably Aubameyang and Ozil, and between them are spending half the time on the bench or out of position, and it just seems that the potentially Arteta can't handle those big names.
For me, a big player like Aubameyang or Ozil, they should be pulling it out for themselves, no matter who's in charge of the club.
No matter where they're playing as well, though, because I think Aubameyang, we stuck him in the middle, and you're really looking at his previous seasons. He's been great for Arsenal, hasn't he? And then all of a sudden, signs a new deal, £10 million a week or whatever it is he's on, and then all of a sudden, it's like the light switch goes off. But isn't it the manager's job to, manage that relationship and keep that player motivated and get him in the right headspace to deliver on results? Because if not, you're 11.
Well, clearly something's gone wrong this season, hasn't it, with Aubameyang? I don't know quite what. I know we've discussed it a week or two ago on the pod, but he's bound to come good again at some point. But this season, he has had a very, very poor season. He's the club captain at the minute. I know there's talk at the minute of that changing for next season and that them readdressing the captaincy.
Yeah.
For me, I can see that ending in fireworks for Aubameyang's career at Arsenal.
Yeah.
At the end of last season, when they won, was it the FA Cup, and then they won the Community Shield? He was all singing, all dancing, happy as Larry Aubameyang. But then since then, we've seen next to nothing of it. And then there's talk of disciplinary issues and turning up late for a big game, and also I don't even know if that's true, but that's what was kind of in the press.
The Spurs game, he turned up late for the Spurs game, didn't
he? Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
but it was a training, wasn't it? Wasn't it training on the week prior to the derby? He was late one day and got pulled up for that. And so on. I will say he's the only man in the Premier League that's got a worse lockdown haircut than I have.
No, it's shocking. What is that all about?
What's he playing at? I'm not so.
But yeah, he's certainly not doing Arteta any favours, is he?
I think he's expecting. I think it's too much. I'm not saying that. Listen, we can say this about any player. Look, you're on 250 grand a week. You should be pulling out, match-winning performances. But I do think he is Mr. Arsenal. They are relying on him too much a little bit because you know what I mean. They got Martinelli's not playing, obviously injured. Lacazette don't fire too much, does he? They got no one really behind him that's backing him up, are they? So I think is he feeling the pressure? Because he was not he had a few good players around him at Dortmund and he could sort of like shine when he needed to, if you know what I mean. And he had the good service.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I wouldn't say they're exactly shy of it at the moment. They're still, him and Lacazette clicked last season. They've both been fit and available for most of this season. Saka's been around. They've got lots of Odegaard until he got injured this week's been around. And, they've got lots of good attacking talent. I mean, it's a mystery to me, other than the fact that perhaps, he's being played out of position. I feel there's round pegs going in square holes at Arsenal because Arteta is trying to fit players around the system like Pep does at Man City. But Pep has got a world-class squad full of players that can adapt to play in different positions and to his ethos because he signed them for that. And Arteta's picked up Emery's squad and tried to apply an ethos there without going and refreshing the squad. He's just brought in a couple of signings, a couple of loan signings. Off we go. Hey presto, this isn't working. But I think the manager has to be responsible for that. You live and breathe, you live and die by your results, don't you? And when you're a team like Arsenal and you're 11th, a team that nearly won the Champions League, 10, 12 years ago, but they're 11th in the Premier League, and there can't be a single happy Arsenal fan in the land at the moment, can there?
Well, I think his first mistake when he first took over was getting rid of Martinez.
Yeah,
he was their best player for
brilliant.
The second part of last season. He's gone to Villa and played phenomenal, and now they've got that is where your spine of your team starts. Why change that, or why go back to what wasn't working when he was getting results with Martinez or whatever, and he was solid. That to me is the core of it straight away. That was a terrible decision straight away as the manager. He's just let the best goalkeeper in the league go, basically.
Yeah, I mean having a top keeper is so important, particularly if your if your defence is getting put under pressure. Look at Sheffield United. Had Henderson last season. He was a big part of why they didn't score many goals last year, did they? But they didn't concede many, so they won games 1-0. And Henderson was a huge part of that because he was just pulling worldies off, and so much so. And I've got a kind of Henderson De Gea question later on, but absolutely vital. Couldn't agree more. But Lane's got mistakes in him, hasn't he? So that can't be new. So why would you let that good keeper go? I don't know.
That to me seems stupid.
So how long has Arteta got left? If it carries on like this,
8 games. 8 games.
Yeah. You'd let him go.
And then he'll be gone
in the summer.
Yeah, I think he'd be gone.
You'd let him go in the summer. He's not. You talked about Solskjaer being a United legend, and he obviously is, and he's been afforded that time and patience that you could say he's earned. Arteta's not an Arsenal legend as such, is he? He spent quite a lot of time at Everton. He was at Rangers.
I was going to say more Everton than he is Arsenal.
Yeah, so nice that he's gone back and played that, but the fans in particular, I'm not sure. The Arsenal fans hate their board, don't they? So I'm not sure what their board feel. But if you want success, that's got to be driven by top four. When you're a big, rich club like Arsenal, it's got to be top four, hasn't it? Anything less than top four, your manager failed. Surely.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's the same for most of the clubs now. I think if you look at what's happening at Tottenham, Jose obviously if he don't win something, it's a dead cert. He's gone. Kane's they're going to lose their prize player. He's already said this week we don't qualify for Champions League. We're going.
Yeah. I can't.
An Arsenal legend to me would have been Vieira or Henry.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vieira's in the management game, isn't he? Hasn't he?
Yeah, Nice, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know how well he's done. There's this whole thing of them jumping in too early, isn't there? That you could argue it's exactly Arteta's done a Lampard, hasn't he? Whereas Solskjaer had a bit of grounding in management first, albeit in kind of a lower standards of football, but he'd done it for quite a few years. So the man management's essential, isn't it?
I don't think Ole's had enough credit for his man management. Actually, the way he's dealt with the way he's dealt with Luke Shaw, the way he's dealt with Paul Pogba's situation, the way he's brought through the youngsters like Mason Greenwood, but not overplayed them. The way he's managed to rotate things between the Europa and the league, and he seems to keep everybody happy. He seems to keep everybody on side. There seems to be a real good factor around United at the minute.
Very hard.
Which I don't think he's getting anywhere near enough credit.
Very hard to beat now. Although you're easy to score against in the first half, you're very hard to beat.
It's unbelievable.
And that shows a real resilience in the team. And I know commentators keep coming back to it. United concede, and if they can do this for a whole game, it doesn't really matter if they do, if they don't, if they've got 3 points at the end of it, does it? As long as they're winning those games. If they're a bit slow out the blocks, then so what? They found a way of winning games of football. And I think most United fans would have taken second at the start of the season.
I think that's the progress we've made over the past year or two. Is over the past few years, games like today, we would have either lost or drawn 1-1. Whereas this season, we've really managed to develop that and push on to the very last minute, and bring back a bit of that never say die attitude, which Ole more than anyone will understand like the back of his hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's our progression this year. We're not world beaters yet. We're not going to win the league yet. But we're definitely getting something like it.
All right, it took 30 minutes. It took 30 minutes for the game to come alive. It was first game. The first 30 minutes today was boring, but the best chance of the game foul to United with Cavani. We scored. All right, disallowed. Absolutely diabolical decision. I can't see how it was ruled away. I'm not saying it because you're a United fan, but like Michael Richards said, it's ruining football because it's just no intent, no nothing, whatever. Then I don't think Spurs really had a chance for the first 30 minutes on United's goal. I thought we defended quite well. All right, we didn't have a lot of possession. We was pinned back a bit. Then that kicked the game into gear. They started having a few more attacks, whatever. Second half, Ollie's obviously gone and said something. And I think that's where the management's different. Because I think Jose Mourinho might have gone in and said, right, let's park the bus now, Spurs. We're 1-0 up. That's what it sort of looked like, because Spurs went all... They seemed to be... It looked like the first 10 minutes of the second half looked like the last 10 minutes of a game, where we kept pinning them back in their area, and they didn't really have a reply, did they? Yeah,
no, it's very dominant. I mean, completely different. And I wonder, I sometimes think that the second half, and this goes back to Mark saying, is Solskjaer getting enough credit? I don't think it's just Solskjaer going in and giving the players a rollicking. They're tactically looking at how they were being overrun a bit or nullified in the first half and doing something about it and coming out and playing differently and getting the results. So the opposite of the definition of madness. They are changing it without having to change, without having to make substitutions and getting better results of it. And then, they'll get that goal, 2 goals, and then they can take the big boys off the last 10, 15 minutes so the legs are still fresh for the next game. And, from an outsider looking in, it seems to be seems to be going really well, and there seems to be a solidity at the club that I haven't seen for a few years prior to kind of the second half of this season.
I think you also got to look at the backroom staff or the staff that Solskjaer's got around him, and you look at what Arteta's got. Who's Arteta got beside him?
I couldn't tell you.
No, exactly.
Idea.
But you watch United and they got Carrick on the bench, who's played a lot of football for United and learnt that Ferguson way. You got Mike Phelan, who was Ferguson's assistant for a lot of years, knowledgeable chap. You got other, there's a lot of coaching staff and backroom staff that are clever football wise.
Yeah,
that have played the game.
You've got a bloke on your coaching staff that is the spitting image of Phil Neville, but isn't Phil Neville.
Yeah.
What a coincidence!
Yeah, but you're right, Ralph. The team he's got behind him. Well, he's got Michael Carrick and Darren Fletcher now, who in the three of those players, Ole, Carrick, and Fletcher, all of them, the epitome of professionalism. Barely put a foot wrong in the whole of their careers. They absolutely had the perfect attitude towards football.
Well, they completed their jobs, didn't they?
That can only be good for the team.
They completed the jobs that they were set, and that was it.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's the mentality he's drilling into his players now. I think, it helps that Carrick's been around a lot of the boys. He's played football with a lot of the team. Fletcher's played football with a lot of the team. Mike Phelan's got knowledge. He looks like an older chap who might have, he was Ferguson's assistant. So we've got to show him a bit of respect and look at him a bit, probably in awe of him a little bit because he's done good things with Ferguson.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a good mix. When you look at Arteta, he seems to be alone. It's just Arteta. There's no Arsenal experience there with him.
He's just got the ghost of Guardiola hanging over his head, and
basically they expected, like you said, it to be Arsenal to be the new Man City, and it hasn't worked because Arteta isn't Guardiola. He was his protege.
I think when you look at all the pros that Arsenal have had in the past that they could have on the coaching team now, it's a bit sad that they don't really, isn't it? Because if you were coming in and being drilled on the game by Pires or Overmars or Vieira or whoever it is, they've got so many great legends that played at the club over the years, and none of them have hung around onto the coaching staff. But I think you've said about Man United, but is Freddie Ljungberg around the Arsenal?
He's gone now, but he did, didn't he? He was originally there when he under 23s.
Right. Oh yeah, of course he was, because he took over on an interim basis, first team for a couple of games, didn't he? When someone got sacked sometime.
Emery, I think.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So, I'm a fan of fantasy football. I like flicks. Saw a brilliant flick today from McTominay. And Son fell over like he'd been shot. Footballers do that. This sparked a bit of debate on our Facebook chat. So, someone over like he'd been shot, and footballers do that and accept that. Some worse than others. But it seemed to me there was a deliberate attempt. So as soon as the goal was scored, he stayed down to ensure that phase of play was reviewed as well. And then when it got to the VAR, I thought the VAR assistant only showed the referee that very short passage of play in slow motion, so there was no context to what happened, and the fact that he tapped him on the head. My question to you guys, with VAR, it seems that retrospective punishment seems to have just dropped out of the game. I remember a few seasons ago, Lanzini got a 3-game ban for West Ham because he won a penalty, and then it was subsequently found there was no contact. And, at the time he said, well, I could see the contact coming. The guy was flying in, so I jumped over it and went over and got the penalty. And the FA ruled because there was no contact, he simulated a dive and got a 3-game ban, which, you either agree with or you don't. But he got, the ban was there. But that seems to have gone out the window now with VAR. It's just, it looks at it and it either says you're right or wrong, and that's it. But if you've play acted in any way, that's no longer getting picked up. Should something like how Son reacted today be treated retrospectively by the FA? Ralph?
Yes. Because if you looked at it and it was brought up by the commentators, there was a passage of play where it happened 2 or 3 times. I think Pogba they said, "Oh, whenever Pogba's up against someone shorter than him, his arm always happens to go across a player's face." That isn't intent, to hurt them.
Yeah.
Same as 10 minutes before the goal, 5 minutes before the goal. Rashford tried claiming it. It was another one. All right, he's a United player, but the hand didn't go nowhere near his face.
No.
It was a kick to the calf. Why is that not being reviewed? I know it would have gone against United, but what did the Son incident? Like you said, he stayed down to make sure that it come back to that passage of play. What did that incident stop that goal, that passage of play to that goal? Because Son wasn't near the ball. He wasn't gaining. McTominay didn't gain no advantage.
Yeah, he wasn't going to win the ball, was he? Had he not been touched?
No. So why did that get called back to stop that? So, what I know what you're saying. So if it's a deliberate foul and a deliberate handoff, why wasn't he shown a second yellow card?
Yeah, you could hear the conversation on Sky where they were basically saying, "We're not going to send him off because it was accidental," and it's like, so it's not a foul. He just, they touched his finger has touched his head. It's not a foul. But that bit seemed to have got lost in the conversation because of the slowed down VAR replays, from what I could see. But what was your take on it?
It makes me rage. It really makes me rage. The fact that, and yeah, like Ralph said, it wasn't just the Son incident. Rashford did it 10 minutes earlier. So anybody saying we're United biased and what have you, it's nonsense. The game has gone. What happened with McTominay barely flicking Son? The ref has to have enough about him to say that's just an accidental bit of contact that's had no effect on this game whatsoever. It wasn't a foul. It was accidental contact in a contact sport game. It's absolute nonsense. Every time a player either goes down, gets tackled, or screams out in agony, it's a foul nowadays, and it's the most frustrating thing. I think we're all old enough to remember the days of Keane and Vieira in a United Arsenal, or even further back than that, and it made the game so exciting. Whereas now it's just painful to watch, and how rarely now do players get praised because they stayed on their feet? It's just, I think if things were dealt with retrospectively, to the point where players have got it in their head that if I jump up again and go for the ball again, I might not get fined, or I might not miss the next game, and then if the ref wants to pull it back, he can. But there's so much of it; it's painful.
It's like a good 30 seconds or 40 seconds has gone on until after the incident. You've celebrated the goal. Everyone's thought, right, thank God for that. Pressure's off us. We've been under the cosh. We've gone 1-0 any team. Not saying United. I'm saying any team, the away team. You then get a call that there's a 3-minute delay or whatever for the referee being spoken to in his ear, and then he's asked to go over and look at the screen. So to me, that tells me that the VAR man can't make the decision, because he basically can't say that whether it's a foul or not. So that to me is already suspicious that they can't think it's a foul. That it's deemed that certain a foul.
The updated guidance from a couple of months ago, and it kind of dissipated the VAR controversy for a few weeks at least, was, remember, it's for a clear and obvious error. And when you take that context into, what happened, there is no clear and obvious error, is there? The referee didn't think, I've made a massive mistake there in not picking up the fact that his hand struck his face as he was running away from him. He saw it and deemed in real time that it wasn't important. It wasn't, it wasn't a foul. He saw it. You could see the ref's line of vision. He saw it and decided it wasn't. And then you've got a guy up in a room somewhere, Stockwell Park, saying, "Hang on a minute. If you look at it from this angle, it looks really ropey. You need to send him off." And for me, it was I was quite a fan, not a fan, but I was pro VAR earlier in the season. But there's just been too many weekends now. I mean, this weekend I think there's 3 or 4 key decisions that.
Burnley Newcastle.
I haven't even seen that one yet, but read about the kick in the face. But offsides that aren't offside, that are given offside. You're looking down the line yourself. It's not offside. It's preposterous. And
sorry, just about in. If it was discussed that it was accidental enough that McTominay didn't warrant a yellow card, why does it have to warrant a foul?
No,
it wasn't a foul.
No, it's very.
I just don't know what the advantage. I don't know what the advantage was. If anything, Son grabbed hold of his arm, and to free himself up to run, he's basically moved his arm, pulled his arm out, and it's flicked up and hit him in the. It's not even flicked him. If you look at it, the replay, I think it doesn't even scrape the fingernail doesn't even scrape his nose.
No, Son was lying on the floor with a medic leaning over him. Players stood around him checking he's all right. It's cheating. It is cheating the game.
Yeah, but nothing will happen. It's the reaction from a Spurs fan on the group chat was all footballers do this. And I was thinking, hang on a minute, none of the players of my team do this ever. So not all footballers do this. That's why I took slight offence at it because yes, Son's not the only player that does it, but a
lot of them do.
Yeah, but players that do that should be punished for it after the game, as far as I'm concerned. When you can see they've put it on, people that aren't football fans laugh at football players, don't they? For episodes such as that. Look at him; he's been shot. Yeah. It's embarrassing as a sports fan to think that they've gained an advantage from doing that, and they did because the goal was overruled. And then he's run up the other end of the park 5 minutes later and scored. Imagine if that was the winner. How would you have felt as football fans, as United fans?
2 years. Smash my TV up.
Yeah.
What's happened to the dubious panel then? What's happened to the Premier League panel that do all these? Say like rugby, you get cited for a disciplinary for a punch in the ruck. Where's all this panel gone? So has VAR replaced the panel?
I don't know. You just never hear it getting escalated outside the game anymore. You don't hear about retrospective bans. You hear about red cards getting overturned, the odd one, but that's pretty much it, isn't it? But yeah, for me, Son should pay for what he did. All right, let's move on. So I'm quite a fan of COVID bans this week because Leicester got 5 players and then we allowed us to not have to face James Maddison today, which was excellent. And we did our usual thing of racing into a 3-goal lead and then imploding at the back with 20 minutes left. It's so relaxing being a West Ham fan and being 3-0 up. You just know what's coming next. So just to say, I'm delighted with the 3 points. Thanks, Brendan. But was he right? So there's no FA protocol that said he had to drop those 5 players. So that was purely a club decision. So he's in 3rd place, pushing for his Champions League slot. It was a week ago. They've all had loads of tests since, presumably. Should he have done it? Should he have dropped those 5 players for pure and ethical reasons, or should he have just said, "Well, Maddison is one of my best players. I really want these 3 points. I'm going to fine them all 50 grand and off we go." What do you think, lads?
I don't know. It was a strange one. I didn't even know that they had. The only thing I heard was that Maddison. I thought it was he got tested positive, but I didn't realise it was a breach of rules. That
yeah,
obviously
they went to a party apparently.
Like you said, I would have played him, and then I'd have dealt with it, tonight or tomorrow. Called him in the office, and thanks for the game, boys, and the result, whatever if they'd won. But this is your slap on the wrist. You're getting a week's wages fine.
Yeah, I think it was.
The thing is, I've written down my answer to that is no and yes. The reason being, yes, it is the right thing to do because he needs to do something to punish him. There has to be some sort of consequence to them breaking COVID rules and what have you. A fine to these players is like saying they can't have their pocket money. It's not going to have any effect on them, really. So the only sort of punishment for them is to stop them playing football that week. But the reason I've put no is because the only people they're really punishing now is the club and the club's fans.
Yeah.
So the club has now suffered because of it, probably more than the three
I struggled
players.
a bit at first to work out. I mean, I've just gone on and checked to see who else it was. So I guess the other two. Well, yeah, so
Chowdhury and
sort of
Perez,
doesn't start for Leicester. He's on the bench, isn't he? Perez does and he doesn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure how much it would have affected. I mean, not having if Maddison was fully fit again because he played in the last game, didn't he, as a sub? So there was lots of talk about whether he'd be fit to start today. But Maddison's one of those players who after injury, he takes a few games to get going. He doesn't just come back and explode into it. So yeah, bit of a funny one. Aaron, come and join in.
It's a tough one. What do you do in that circumstance?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be in
What
that
do you
position.
do?
I mean, I'm on the record delighted that Brendan Rodgers made that decision. It's definitely the right thing to do. Well done, Brendan. You are to be applauded. And if any of the other teams that we play in the next 7 have any COVID breaches, they should do exactly the same. Just, bench all their best players. Happy with that. Brilliant. Bring it on. What a game. Brings me on to my next question. Lingard's obviously been a revelation for West Ham since joining on loan from United. He's got more direct goal contributions than any other player in the Premier League since joining West Ham. How much is he worth? So he's got 1 year left in his contract in the summer, which normally means a player would go on the cheap. But given his contribution, and it's not just West Ham fans talking about Lingard at the moment, it's kind of everyone is. If he continues in this vein of form, so say 7 more games, he gets another 5 goals, 3 or 4 assists. Where does that put him in terms of value with a year left on his contract, Ralph?
Right, in this day and age, probably about 30 million.
Oh, good, we can afford that.
I wouldn't say I don't think he's going to be a record-breaking fee. And who's to say that? Yeah, he's in a vein of form, but who's to say that he's going to do that back at United? Is it the way that like a friend of mine said to me today? Is it because he's a bit of a big fish in a small pond?
It absolutely is. It is. So for us as West Ham fans, the way we play, we don't have the ball all the time. So when we do, we play a fast pacing, counter-attacking style. So it's fitted having Antonio that can power his way past players, but it fits fast mobile players as well. So when we had Arnautovic last time, was in charge, he took him off the wing, put him in the middle and just said, run your socks off. And he scored loads of goals that way. And it's the same with Lingard. Lingard gets space playing for West Ham that he doesn't get playing for United, where they're more structured. There's more other attacking players. He's not the key pivotal point. At West Ham right now, it's give the ball to Jesse. And we do, and he scores goals. So, it is different. And I don't think he'd be the same back at United, but I think there's plenty of teams that he could do the same that he's done at West Ham the last few weeks. Quite a few teams. There's talk of Arsenal. I think he'd be excellent for Arsenal. I don't want him to go to Arsenal. I want him to stay at West Ham forever and us to build a statue of him.
next to Bobby Moore.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, with a little Instagram signal behind it. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you could pay for him. I don't know. He's not going to be worth 70, 80 million. But then he's not. I think 5-10 million is a bit of an insult to the player himself.
The original talk was 15. So that was what was being talked about behind the scenes. That's now changed to 30. And most West Ham fans on Twitter and so on now are saying, fine, get the checkbook out. He's clearly worth 30 million. What do you think, Mark? Yep.
Right, he's 28. He's on He's on 100 grand a week.
Yeah.
He's got a year left on his contract. Yes, he wasn't playing as he is now at United, but that doesn't mean he was only worth £15 million. He's got to be worth, for me, 40 million at least. Think about it. The effect he's had on West Ham, the effect he's had on them is right up there as good as Bruno Fernandes did for United. And how much did he go to United for? I know he's younger. I know he had
it's
more
the
his
length
contract,
of his contract that's the key thing, though. Here, isn't it? That makes it so. If Lingard was 25 and had 3 years left on his contract, he'd be worth 80 million. But he's not. He's 20. He's 28, as you said, and got 1 year left. And that's. I actually think that probably 30 is the right ballpark for where he is at the moment. He's playing as well as he is because that's the club that have afforded him the opportunity to play that football in that way. He's been a loyal Man United player all these years. Played for them since he was a kid, I think, hasn't he? And so there's a bit of should be getting a testimonial if he hasn't had one already on the way out for his service to the club. I think there is. I can see why. I can see the point why you'd want more money for him. But if I'd said to you in December, Jesse Lingard's worth 40 million in the summer, the scenes. But
I mean, who knows what's going to happen between now and that transfer? There's going to be another 7 or 8 games where he'll probably carry on doing as he's doing, and then he's undoubtedly going to go to the Euros now. How can he not take him? He already likes him and trusts him from taking him 2 years ago and being one of the star performers. He's going, and James Maddison has now lost his place.
Who's to say between now and the end of the season Lingard don't get an injury?
Well,
then what does it do then to the valuation?
I'd say
West Ham, send him back to United.
It just makes him a West Ham player with the way things are going. I think we had Noble and Creswell got injured today. So we're already down to bare bones in the squad. I think half of our first team, I'm going to sound like Colin, half of our first team squad are now injured. But, just cracking on and doing the best that we can. So it wouldn't be a surprise if Lingard got injured because they're just, the boys have been playing their hearts out all year. It's a small squad. So if you're good, you play every game. Simple as that. There's no players being rested all season other than in maybe early Carabao Cup round. That's it. Yeah, they're all playing every single game, and Lingard's part of that.
But he looks.
I mean, his first game for West Ham, he hadn't started a Premier League game for God knows how long, like a year or something. He was the fittest player on the park. I mean, how a guy who's not playing regularly can stay Premier League match fit like he can. I mean, straight away we're all like, this guy's going to be brilliant for us because look how fit he is. We know he's gifted. But now, he's match fit straight away, and he's just his confidence is right up there at the moment, isn't it? It's stratospheric. I mean that first goal he scored today, was just. I'll be watching that a few times in the week ahead. All right, so back to the United Spurs game today. So we talked about what United got right and the quality that got them to the game. What did Spurs get wrong in this game, Mark?
I mean, Ralph's already said the first half an hour was pretty poor. It was like both teams were scared to lose. United looked like they'd only played a couple of nights ago. Spurs should have been a lot fresher than they were, having had the week off. But they looked slow and nervy. Slightly wasteful on the ball, didn't create a lot, but then they obviously got the goal, and then like Ralph said, half time came and it was like Mourinho said, right, let's just hold it. We then equalised and United's confidence then completely controlled the game, and Spurs just did not know how to handle it. So where did they go wrong? They started poorly, and then they had the wrong mindset from being 1-0 up. That's what I would say.
Were they capable of overcoming? So as soon as United scored, the momentum was back with them, wasn't it? And
yeah.
Given how good United are away from home when that starts happening. Do you think Spurs are even capable of being good enough to overcome United in their current second half form, or is it purely that the tactics were wrong?
I mean, I think they're good enough. I mean, they could. I personally would have bought Bale on a lot earlier. If you've got players like that on your bench, why is he not using them more? I do not understand it. It's against Man United. Why is Bale on the bench?
I think Mourinho went negative from the get-go because I think, I'm not being funny, Cavani's probably 10, 12 stone, and you've got two brutes of the centre half, but he sort of manhandled both of them. His movement and I just thought man to man on paper, and when we lined up in the tunnel, they lined up there in the tunnel, and I looked at them. To me, I just thought there's no way that they can match us. You know, we got probably the two best fullbacks in the league at the minute, and they've got one of the best wingers in the league in Son. I thought Bissaka had a fantastic game against him. He didn't do nothing major, but he didn't let Son get his normal rhythm of running at you, and he pressed him quickly.
Yes.
I think Shaw, he let Moore run at him a bit, but Moore's final ball was rubbish. You know, and between them, you know, like Maguire said in the build-up, Kane's one of the best strikers in the world, but I think Maguire stepped up. He didn't have a fantastic game, but he done the simple things. He didn't let Kane bully him like other defenders do.
Yeah, Kane,
I just thought
Kane wasn't threatening, was he? Kane wasn't threatening, and your centre backs have to take some credit, and your defensive midfielders have to take credit for that. I thought Fred was awesome today. Got to say, not just because he scored.
Nothing major. He didn't do nothing spectacular, but he just got in and around there. You know, he broke up their midfield
countless times.
Yeah.
The Celso is not a fantastic player. I thought, what was he doing starting the Celso? I thought he should have started, like Mark said, he should have started Bale really in a game like that.
And also for me, why is Joe Rodon and Eric Dyer starting at centre back when you've got Alderweireld on the bench?
I said it to my mate here where I live on the farm. We got a couple of properties, and I went out and watched the game with him at his place. He's a Spurs fan, and he couldn't believe it. The team sheet came out, and I said to him, "You haven't got Jose Mourinho's not got a centre pairing, all right? Solskjaer sometimes drops Bailly in for Lindelof, etc., for European games or whatever, rotates it, but Maguire's always like a number one centre defender." We've got a sort of our two. I don't agree with it, but our two is Lindelof and Maguire. But who can Tottenham say they've got as two dominant first choice centre halves? Because that there is totally different centre half pairing to what they've had for the last 10 games. You've normally got Sanchez there or Alderweireld next to him. Where have they been? Where are they to?
Is Sanchez injured at the moment then, or
I think he might be.
Yeah, season's international. I mean, Joe Rodon, I remember there was talk. So just before he signed, was at the start of the season, West Ham had been looking at him, and the board had said they didn't want him because they didn't think he was going to be ready for the Premier League for another couple of years. And then Spurs went and signed him. I think it's 15 million they paid for him. So we asked a few questions at the time as fans about we're sure this guy's ready, and that's fine. You can buy someone and develop them, and they can get better and be good enough, but good enough to replace Alderweireld against Man United. I don't get the logic in that.
Yeah. Even Tanganga, I would feel, as a Spurs fan, I would rather have Alderweireld and Tanganga at centre-back than Eric Dyer and Joe Rodon.
Selection seems to be an issue for them, doesn't it? When you look at, Dele Alli, who was playing the Champions League finals, setting the world on fire only 2-3 years ago, can't get in squads, can't get in the sides, or is warming the bench at best. But then you look at what's in the midfield and how the signings haven't really gelled in the way that they did at the start. Initially they were great, but I'm looking at players like Reguilon, I'm looking at Holberg now and thinking, have they peed a load of money up the wall there? Because I'm not seeing a top side in Spurs anymore. And whilst that's disappointing for Victor Levy, who spent all the money on it. It's fantastic as a West Ham fan. It's absolutely brilliant. Great work, Jose. Keep it up. All right, I'm going to jump past the Newcastle one. How good is Mason Greenwood? Mark? How good is he? So
How
this
good
isn't
is
a
Mason
rhetorical, how
Greenwood?
good is he? It's, come on. How good is he going to be?
How good is he? But for his age, at the level he's at the minute, he is excellent. He's not exceptional quite yet. He needs to develop more. He needs to be more consistent. He has an odd game, a bit like Rashford, where he can go a little bit missing. But for his age, the impact he can have when he comes on, or even when he starts, is phenomenal. He can absolutely terrorise players, and his finishing is, other than maybe Cavani, because of the experience he's got, he's probably our best natural finisher at the club at the minute.
He's a great finisher there.
Better than Rashford, 100%.
Said this quite a lot over the months, and I agree. He's not doing it every week yet, but there's something swashbuckling about his attacking style that's like early days peak Rooney, isn't it? He's so confident that he's going to score in certain positions that it's more like a striker that's a couple of years older and played in the Premier League for longer.
The only thing that worries me about him is sometimes he has a face on him like he doesn't care too much, and I'm sure he does, because apparently he's a United fan and it's his dream to play for Man United. But he doesn't get, when Rooney was 18, 19, he was fired up at all times. He took the game by the scruff of the neck, and I don't see that with him quite yet.
Yeah,
he focuses on his job. And he does it excellently, but I wouldn't say he's taking control of a game yet and really running it in the same way that say Phil Foden
that's
can.
A fair point. Do you think a couple of years will be good enough to play for England regularly? Should his trajectory continue at its current rate?
If it carries on as it is, then yeah, of course. For me, he should be better than Rashford, because already he's showing more consistency than Rashford. He looks more dangerous than Rashford. A couple of times today, Rashford looked like he should have shot, but just took an extra touch, and then another one, and then another one, and then just passed it straight across to the other side of the pitch. So, whereas Mason Greenwood will have that shot. He'll get it on his foot and he'll welly it. Whether it goes in or not is irrelevant. To have players, we went through a phase where we didn't have any players that were happy to have a shot from outside the box, and that used to be really frustrating. Whereas now we have got those players: Greenwood, Pogba, Fernandes. They'll get the ball
with
and they'll have a go,
isn't it? Because he does it for England, but not so much for Man United. He's more intricate at Man United. With England, he's not scared to smack it from like 25 yards out. For England, it almost seems like the shackles are off when he plays for England. Maybe this is just the way I'm looking at it, but most of his best goals seem to come for England. Where you're like, whoa, what a goal that one! What a guy this is. See that more on that stage. And some people suit international football better than Premier League club football, and
maybe it is a case that Ole he's telling them to only maybe focus on doing their job, and maybe they don't feel free enough to just really go and, as I say, like Rooney used to do, take the game by the scruff of the neck and end up everywhere all over the pitch.
Now, there's only so much of that you can actually do, isn't there, without losing the shape of the team and letting another really good team run up the pitch and score a goal. Fernandes is doing it. Rashford can't. If Pogba's doing it, McTominay can't, and so on and so forth. There's only so much freedom you can afford at one time these days. And even going back 10, 12, 15 years, when we talk about the quality and the standard of players being better in the Premier League back then, I think there were possibly more superstars in kind of the early noughties than there are now. But was the overall quality of the Premier League better? I'm not sure it was. I just think that the worst is the Premier League now are better than the worst Premier League teams were back then. That's the pure difference for me. When you look at the bottom 5 teams in the Premier League now, you go back to them, they'd probably be 10th, 11th because they can all play football. But Sheffield United aside, they're all ballers. So it's interesting.
But yeah, so how good is he?
If I was
he is
giving him
very,
a score
very,
report
very
for the
good.
season, and I know he's not played as much as we would like to, but it's definite 8. If we're going into percentages or percentage points, probably 8.5. He's been good, really good. He excites me, and I like exciting strikers that you think that a good wild card for next year maybe at the World Cup.
Yeah, he came on today for Rashford and did the job. Came on. Yeah. Ran Tottenham ragged and scored.
Lovely goal
job
as well.
That's all you can ask of him.
Dodgy goalkeeping by Lloris, I'd say, but a lovely finish. And it brings us on to dodgy keepers. So Henderson has cemented his place it seems he's cemented his place as number 1 keeper at United for now. De Gea was number 1. He got injured. Henderson came in. De Gea got fit. Henderson has continued. Presuming that Henderson is now seen as a future, so he finished the season. Ole comes out publicly and says, "This is my number 1." Do you stick or twist with De Gea at that point, or do you think, right, I need to now buy a number 2 that is got at least 6 or 7 years in him, but is top notch, but happy to sit on the bench and play the Europa League or play the lower key league games in the Champion League, whatever it is. Stick or twist with De Gea?
Yeah. I think the problem is I would be happy to keep De Gea as a number 2, shall we say. I don't necessarily see him as a number 2, but the problem is De Gea won't be happy as a number 2. And that's where we'll end up having problems. And there'll be unrest in the changing room, shall we say. And that's what we don't need.
Do you know who number 3 is at the moment? So, I can't think.
It's Lee Grant.
I don't know anything about that fella. Is he any good?
Gotcha. Well, he's old. He's about 38, I think.
Experience.
I heard him on TalkSport the other day talking, and by the sounds of it, he's just quite happy to be in and around the club. He knows he's never going to play unless there's going to be a severe couple of injuries, but he's quite happy just to stay working with the club. I think during the COVID peak, when a few of the staff were sick, he was almost acting as a 4th official, holding up the subs numbers board and things like that. And he said he got a load of stick for it, but he said I'm quite happy with it. I'm doing something. So yeah, at the end of the day, a 38-year-old keeper, why not just play out a couple of years at United on a decent wage?
Keepers get injured, so you need a top second keeper. So say you've got Henderson. De Gea says, "I'm going to finish up my career in Spain or wherever," and say you had 15 million to spend on a keeper. Who would you go for from the current crop of keepers that would realistically be content playing 15 games a season for United?
Well, I've seen in the press today Sam Johnson at West Brom going back to United really potentially. Well, the thing is, he's had to work hard this season, and he's done all right. He's probably been one of their best players. All right, they haven't done very well, but I wouldn't say that's down to him. I think he's done his bit fairly well.
Yeah, I think.
It's hard. Isn't it? It's hard to know who you're going to get as a second keeper. We were so lucky with Sergio Romero, having him for so many years, barely ever playing, but when he did, never put a foot wrong.
It was great backup keeper.
So yeah, I don't know, mate. I don't know who we'd have, but it probably would be someone like that. we probably would move for someone like that, especially since he used to be at the club, so he knows a fair bit about United and how.
I think it's a good,
what's
call,
expected,
really good call,
etc.
Sam Johnston. I was racking my brains when I wrote the question down, thinking, so if I was head of recruitment for United, who would I sign if De Gea went? And I just couldn't think of that blend of who would stay, who would be content, but would be of a high enough quality as well. But it is Sam Johnston, so we'll give his agent a ring after the show and say you need to start thinking about what you're going to do in the summer once Henderson lifts the Euro trophy, not as captain, but gets his turn lifting the trophy in a few weeks' time when England are triumphant in Euro 21. It's coming home, Mark. It's coming home.
Quarterfinals,
yes,
mate.
we shall win the quarterfinals on the way to the final. And the glory as we beat France 6 or 7-0, I think, in the final.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll
definitely
we'll discuss it at the time, mate.
Season end, every show will be about the Euros up until that point before we take a summer break. So I think that's us just about out of time for this week. Yeah. So Mark, thanks for coming on. Ralph jumped off. I think his kebab must have arrived.
Thank you, mate.
Because he was ordering one, wasn't he? And, I am not one, Ralph. If you're still listening, I'm not one to get in the way of man and his kebab. So have a great week. Mark, I hope you feel better soon.
Cheers, Ralph.
Cool. And anyone that's been listening or watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, please like and share the show. We'd appreciate your support. You can see there was a spare grab this slot this week. If anyone wants to come on the show and talk about their team or just football generally, then drop me a DM or to Football Fever at Facebook. Have a great week and come on, you Irons. And thanks very much and see you next time, guys.